But that's probably why you keep showing up. It's a famous Tony Bennett quote, do you still get nervous? He's like, I didn't get nervous, I wouldn't even be here anymore. Of course, those nerves can either cripple you or they can heighten you to places and take over rooms and take over moments. And we never know what we're gonna play next. We're kind of just looking around at what kind of receptive feedback we're getting from the crowd.
The doubt is gonna happen no matter what. But that's probably why you keep showing up. That's the truth artists don't hear enough. Confidence isn't the absence of doubt. It's learning how to perform with it. In this live conversation with Lee Cabrera, we go deep on the head game of early success, the pressure to deliver night after night, and the real tools that keep you grounded, your circle, your mindset, and the relationships you protect along the way. This is Redefining Music. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Redefining Music, where we are connecting you with industry leaders and artists to help you navigate an ever-changing music industry. And tonight on the show, we have Lee Cabrera, who has been in the industry for a while now with his first hit at age 19. And so very, very excited to talk to you tonight, Lee. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a Portland, Oregon boy. I think I was the poorest kid in the burbs, like church raised us, that kind of vibe. But grew up in a really great family environment with music. My mom is in Savon with music. She can play the accordion, she can play the clarinet, she can play the guitar, and I was just a jock, so I didn't really get into music that early, but it was just sports. And my uncle the same with music, my aunt the same, and just a really great, wonderful music family and very family-oriented. And loved our Jesus, which was dope. And I moved to New York when I was 18, got into Stern School of Business at NYU, and thought I was going to be going there. And then got lucky and got a great job and met some of the A&R department at a gym and a nightclub, and I just got totally engulfed in the scene in New York, but in a wonderful way, like Danny Tenaglia and Eric Murillo and Roger Sanchez and Little Louis Vega, and it was just an incredible scene. And then all the internationals, Deep Dish was coming over, and Pete Tong was always coming over, and I was just fascinated. And I got this job at Strictly Rhythm, which is probably the most legendary house label on planet Earth, and who created the Eric Murillos, and I Like to Move It, Josh Wink, Higher State of Consciousness, and King of My Castle, and some of the biggest hits in the world. And I couldn't believe that I got this job after like 4 interviews, and was suddenly making $55,000 a year as a teenager. And
that's insane.
Yeah, I know. And full benefits, and it was crazy. I was like, what? My gig was simply to use this wonderful American Express gold card and go to all the nightclubs and make sure that all the DJs were playing my music. So to me, I would have done it for free, and I still would actually. And then you get to ride shotgun in the booth, so that like fly on the wall thing helped start the business. But yeah, and then within 6 months, I told myself, like, I think I did mix a compilation under Stephen Lee for Strictly Rhythm, and it was great. And I remember mixing that compilation like 300 times, thinking I had to do it live before I knew what a digital audio workstation was, like Ableton or Logic And I was like, no, I got to do it live. But no, you can misfire on every mix that you want, and we can just chop it out and make it look, no hands. I had no idea, but I muscled it because I wanted it perfect. And it helped me practice, so it was all good. In the end, they said, because you did that, we've rented a villa in Ibiza. And I was like, all right, I'm going. And at the time, Eric Murillo was Eric Murillo, and he was playing at Space, and I got off the plane and still had my rollerboard, and I walked straight into Space, and he took my luggage and flipped it aside, and it was the most crazy week of my life, just watching the best do the best in the Super Bowl environment of this little salt mining town called Ibiza, Spain, that nobody's at until it's, kind of Memorial Day to, Labor Day kind of vibe, and it just gets engulfed by every single person in the world of all different cultures. And I was just blown away at how this dance music was crazy. So I said to myself audaciously, which is stupid, but hey, there's power in words. So I said, I'm never going back there again unless they pay me. In other words, I'm going to work for it and I'm going to earn it. And it was like 6 months later, I wrote the #1 record on planet Earth, Cabrera, Shake It. Just move a little closer. And it just like beginner's luck. But yeah. Anyway, that's the way the good Lord had it. So
that is incredible. Like, talk about getting into your purpose and getting into flow and just like, and seeing opportunities and taking them and going for it.
Yeah.
Okay, what was that like as you're just getting into it?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Was it surreal? Did you doubt yourself? Was there anything that came up? Like, tell me about that.
Oh yeah. It was. I still always say I feel like Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing, even though in Point Break he was damn good. But you feel like you're this one hit wonder because it was just so big, and no matter. Yeah, it really plays with your head, because you're suddenly. I think I had $700 in my bank account, and it was all NYU's money, and then suddenly I'm getting paid $10,000 to go travel the world. And I remember having this, I still have this shower curtain in one of my rooms, and it was the map of the globe, and it was all color-coded, very Andy Warhol vibe like me. And you're supposed to have the world out there so people can see it, but I had it in my shower because I'd get in the shower and look around and be like, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm going. And it was humbling, but also daunting. You're like, wow, going to places. And like going to Russia, which we don't do, I know, and that's a whole different ballgame. But I think I've played Moscow like every month for like 3 years, and when we did, and I never said no to anything, And but yeah, it was a lot of beginner's luck. So then you feel like you got to really show that you earned it,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with art, it's the most competitive sport in the world because we could work months on something, and then somebody could subjectively judge it and say, yeah, it sucks. And you're just like, whoa, So you gotta be that kid in Hollywood that gets turned down all the time. But I got my first yes, and the biggest yes I ever had. So then there's all these relationships that you build, and then like Pete Tong was like playing every record I ever did, every remix on Radio 1. My friends were like, what? You kind of get, there's jealousy that happens and stuff, but I get it. I've been there with people too, so you just try to do your best to appreciate all of it, even though
It gets a little.
Yeah. If I could do it again the second time, I'd have done a lot different.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just felt like I had to have that, like swagger, like I did it, but it wasn't how I truly was feeling.
Yeah.
Now it's like every opportunity to do what I do I'm in the right space for it. Because I did earn it, and I earned it then too. It's like I always said I was about 90% talent, 90% tenacity, and 10% talent. When all these other people, including my buddy that's here, Bleach, who also did Gimme Gimme with me, Larry Grant. I mean, he's just some of these people that I've worked with are just the best. But but they wait their whole lives to get something that I got when I was 19. So yeah, blessed. But it comes with some stuff.
It's a big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Like and it's your own big shoes to fill, right?
Yeah.
So what would you tell to an artist who is on that breaking in and they're seeing that or like they're dealing with that inner critic on something, or it's like, whoa, you've made it big. How do you keep up with that? How did you manage that to stay going in the right direction?
Yeah, be honest with yourself. Make sure your people around you are supportive but also honest. Make sure they're older, and wiser, I should say. That was, the founder of Strictly Rhythm was Mark Finkelstein, and he used to walk into the office and say, I got socks older than you. And he probably did. But he ended up calling me when the label sold and said, hey, kid, I want to manage you. And I was like, whoa. And it was the greatest, go figure, like, kind of intern spot that he would laugh at me because I was there earlier than anybody else, and 'cause I didn't have anywhere else to go. And I was there later than everybody else because I'd rather stay there. And that it was an honor to hear him. You get little nods like that from your people, you know, and Pete Tong and all your peers and Deep Dish and Roger and Eric and Danny, and they were the Beatles and Elvis to me, you know, as they were the rock stars, and they did it better than me. And you just kind of go and watch them and replicate. But I would just say, just make sure you know, I had no choice but to keep a good head on my shoulders. Otherwise, you know, there's a lot of us, and we know in the scene, that just get caught up. Yeah. You know, and in every way, you know. And this game is about relationships. So it's important to value those, and you know, you always ask myself, like, if I'm hanging out with somebody at 4 o'clock in the morning, would I actually hang out with them at 4 p.m.? I think a lot of us would say no. You know, so you have to understand we're in the nightclub business, and we're also in the music business, and you know, you got to. It's an alter ego that kind of plays, but support group, be honest with yourself, and yeah, the doubt is going to happen no matter what. Thousands of shows I've played all over the world, and I'm ready every time. But that first 5 seconds before you get on, there's like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But that's probably why you keep showing up.
It really is. It means you care.
Yeah.
It really means you care. Like, to have a little bit of a little anxiety, because that's like, oh, there's some weight to this. I care about this. I care about this.
It's a famous Tony Bennett quote, you know, do you still get nervous? He's like, if I didn't get nervous, I wouldn't even be here anymore. You know, like, of course, those nerves can either cripple you, or they can heighten you to places and you know, take over rooms and take over moments, and like, we never know what we're going to play next. We're kind of just looking around at what kind of receptive feedback we're getting from the crowd, you know. So there's just so much that happens performing at any level, you know. My lady's a professional soccer player, so performance, you know, and like, it takes a lot of, you know what, to get up here and do it.
It definitely does. And especially for artists who, a lot of us are introverted, maybe like a little bit like scared to share our music with the world. What would you tell an artist who say has a body of work, who's just on the fence of like putting it out there?
Yeah, I mean, fear was, it's crippling. Like I said, it could be used as a tool. I started kind of saying to myself, why not just walk in here like Mike Tyson, you know, and just be like, I'm the baddest SOB, and I'm a whoop ass. And I was really convincing myself that, you know, and like, stop, you know, just go in here and do exactly what, and it kind of helped, you know, like, it was this self-fulfilling prophecy vibe that you convince yourself that, because it's the scariest thing in the world, but overcoming it is great. But if I think you have to have I'm not really the shyest person. I mean, I was an athlete my whole life, so like, I was okay with performing. I mean, music was something that was like, whoa, and then like playing in team sports, you got your team, and but you know, when you're an individual traveling all over the world by yourself and foreign countries, and you know, it's a blind date every time we're up here, you know, and you gotta, you know, a blind date is usually a one-on-one, and you got thousands that you gotta win over in 35 seconds or less, or like, see ya. And it probably isn't that severe, but I probably made it that severe in my brain and in my soul. So I was like, you know, but some of that taking it seriously stuff, that comes out in your music too. So you gotta remember to be playful, and you gotta be ready. Sometimes you're so scared that you can't even dance, you have no rhythm, you can't even put two records together, you can't even chew gum. But you know, and you get that way sometimes. You don't even know why, because it's like, wow, I did 6 shows in a row and everything, you know, and it's yeah, it'll creep up on you.
Yeah, you're totally right about that.
Yeah.
Like, I've done 800 of these podcasts, and I still have my moments where I'm like, get in my head, or I like get down, or I like put it down, and I'm like, nope, I like, what is your, do you have a thing you do before you perform? Like, I like get in front of the mirror and say, you've got this, like, or do you have or you just kind of get in a mindset?
Yeah, lots of them. And, you don't want to, as a headliner, they're all trying to whoop your ass. That's just the way it is. They're all, and, they're playing all your records. I mean, back in the day, you could never, ever play the headlining DJ's record. They'd come up and kick your ass or you'd get thrown out, When I made Shake It, I was like, damn, there's 4 other DJs playing over me. They must have played it 8 times before I played it. Well, I mean, what am I going to do? So, and I've seen Murillo and Roger and all of them be like, you can't do that. But yeah, you have to do a lot of pep talks, And it's not one, it's multiple. Because, when you come to the venue and you walk into the venue and you want to have a swagger, you want to, and like, I think as you start getting a little wiser in life and doing it more and more, you kind of want to feel it too. So it's you cannot bottle it up. There's no formula. I wish I could. It works for me, it really does, but it also doesn't. All the pep talks on the planet, pray, just have a drink. I don't know, you want to step drink before, but
I'm a champagne girly right before I get on the stage.
All of it, it's like it just. And you walk up and they're playing, gosh, I was just in Sao Paulo and I played that big room, La Rock, and I walk in and I'm a house music DJ and I'm headlining this place and there's 7,000 people there and they're playing Swedish House Mafia. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Gimme, ain't gonna work. I don't have the ammunition. Okay. Am I gonna tell a joke? Am I gonna dance? I don't have it. Yeah. I don't have Axel and Avicii and all. I'm looking at them saying, and I got to be up here for 2 hours. Like, no, this is going to be 60 minutes and I'm in and out. But, they're not always great, are they, But
you win some, you lose some, you keep going.
And you scream at your agent.
Yes. How do you keep going when you, like, if say you do hit like a fork in the road or you hit a wall in your music, how do you keep going as an artist?
Yeah, man. You want to give up a lot, but, you do. When, one bad performance, just for whatever reason, that's just how we talk to, and one bad thing could outweigh 500 wonderful things. Yes, most of the people are inebriated, but some are very much listening to you in a tune, and you're making people dance, and that's a luxury in life to be able to do, and it's the greatest gratification as an artist is to make people dance. But yeah, you don't always win them, and so you have to get that, you have to what's that? Novak Djokovic, my favorite tennis player. He's like, as a tennis player and you're playing terrible, you gotta like short term, shut it down, start over, and get back to it. So, yeah, I mean, once I master that, I guess I'll have 25 Grand Slams like he does. But, I'm still terrified as shit to do it. So, it is what it is.
It is, and the whole important thing is to keep going, right? Yeah. Never give up. If you love it, keep going.
You can succumb to it, but then it's not for you.
That's true.
And respectfully, in FaderPro right now, we just launched Mentor My Career. And, I'm speaking to artists that have been through our curriculum and bought a lot of courses and now know how to make music. And now they're like, what do I do now? Well, you have to be really honest with people, You don't want to do that to shun them and take away. And you got to also deal with the attitude that you're dealing with, but yeah, you got to be honest with yourself, This might not be for you, And honestly, I can see artists when they do that. They might be super talented producers, but maybe they're not good entertainers, And I think we've lost some entertainers these days. We got some great ones too, but, I think you got to have the whole package. Not really gotta, but I want that for me. I want to be able to make and write good music, and I want to be able to perform well, because I think it's important.
That's a really good point. To be honest with yourself and where you want to be in the industry is so important, because maybe it is something that it's not like what it looks like for you today. It could be your stroke of genius could be somewhere else in the scene. There could be another element to that.
True. Yeah. Maybe behind the curtain, that's okay too, and everybody has to know their role on every team, right? So, So.
That's very true. Now, you brought up FaderPro. Tell me a little bit about FaderPro, how you got started. What was your aha moment with that?
Yeah, I got the luxury of being able to ride shotgun with some of the two best engineers and producers on planet Earth, and Albert Cabrera and Vincent DiPasquale, and also my boy Larry Grant, who's here with me, a.k.a. Bleach, who we made Gimme Gimme together. And he does film and TV stuff now, and he was grinding in funk for years, but before I even knew how to do anything, it was the opportunity to be a fly on the wall in a studio. And so the most common question that I would hear with people that wanted to do what I do is, can I just sit in the studio and watch? And that's the same thing as a DJ too. When I got the job at Strictly Rhythm, I was able to go sit and ride shotgun in the DJ booths and learn the mannerisms. And I didn't even know what they were doing, but I would go home and twist the same knobs that they were doing and figure it out, and that whole rhetoric that is part of it, the mannerisms, the personality that would show up, and then you make it yours. But in the studio, a lot different. The studio is also the stage. And during COVID, that's what we were preaching, is like the studio is the stage too, especially now, because we don't have a stage. So let's teach you guys how to make music and how you can flex and ball out. So, but my co-founder, Vincent DiPasquale, who was a student at SAE and then graduated at SAE and then was a professor, I shared this great idea about, look, man, I feel like we need to put some cameras in the studio and show how some of these hit records were made. Let's show how Shake It was made. Let's show how we do what we do. There's not like this, still like this hidden vault that we feel like, oh, we don't want to share our secrets. No, there is no secrets, really, and so we were early into the game, so we peaked at the right time, but yeah, we did our first masterclass in the same studio together with Nadia Ali, who's famous for I.O. Rapture, that big record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we produced her album and got a Grammy nomination for it. So we did Crash and Burn and a few other records. We showed how we did remixes for those records and made a DVD. That's how old school it was, and we called it The Art of the Remix, and it did very, very well. And then we took it to online, and it was, calloused hands and keep going while I'm touring 100 shows a year, and he's making music, and he did Madonna, he did everything. He did so many people. While this passion project was there, and we weren't paying ourselves yet, so it's still just the startup, And as luck would have it, about 4 years deep, I met a friend that I was working with at iHeartRadio as a consultant doing the dance music playlist for them, and he got the CEO job for a company called True Fire Studios, and said, we are buying up smaller music production platforms, and you'd be our first dance music platform. At that point in time, I had realized that partnering up with like record labels like Tool Room, we created Tool Room Academy, and then we created Armada University, and then we did. So I was like, hey, let me do relationships with all the labels all over the world, the prominent, and then they can talk to their artists and say, hey, would you like to earn some extra residual income on making a masterclass with FaderPro? We're selling them for $50, and they get 25, 30%, and that's a royalty we don't get as artists, We get 30% of a $99 download, but to get, 25, 30% of a $50 product was cool. So yeah, we were killing it and did very, very well. And then, fast forward about 5 years later, about 4 years ago, we did an acquisition. And it was like the perfect storm as an entrepreneur and artist. Was they buy your company and they rehire you and say, keep running what you're doing, and we're going to give you a bigger team. And then I'm wrapped up in a 4-brand conglomerate, Jam Play, True Fire Studios. True Fire Studios is FaderPro, but for guitar. They've been around about 25 years. So yeah, it was I think everybody was doing record labels then, and I just felt like there was this void in being able to, and it felt good when the due diligence happened, and we did it was nice to say that we paid $800,000 in 4 years to artists and labels and managers that had never been heard before, a royalty that was unseen, and now it's not the most original idea. Everybody seems to be doing these things, but yeah, it felt good. It felt good. It still does.
That's incredible. I love that you took your artistry and you built upon it, and you built multiple streams of revenue. You built a giving back to the artist community and built a community through a business. I think that's where artists out there, when we're sitting in our bedrooms making music and we just want to make the music, when you open your eyes and see what's around that you can do, and you see these opportunities that come up like you did, and you grabbed it and you went with it. Like you said, you were right on that cusp as it was coming up. So that's incredible.
Yeah, I think timing is important, even though that was lucky too, to shake it, I guess. So.
Yeah, you're a lucky guy.
Thank you.
That is incredible. Well, I want to take it to the audience. We got one question from the audience. Who wants to ask Lee a question? Oh, Donovan. So Donovan asked, when did you know when it was time to come over from your artistry to the business side, and the artistry and the business side?
Yeah, there is a sacrifice. I didn't really know when. I thought I was going to be able to have them both coexist, and they did. But when you're building a business, there is a sacrifice, and my career was on a bit of cruise control, and maybe I was feeling plateaued and maybe, worn out, 100 shows a year for 10 straight years, and you're just like, all right, new drug. Let's try something else. And so, good question. I didn't really know when. I think it kind of like when a hit record happens and it becomes a hit record, like when FaderPro happened and the popularity started to happen, I knew it was time to pay more attention to that versus the music. You have to learn to delegate. You have to learn to have a really good team, because if you want to stay in the game, because part of the cool thing about FaderPro was Lee Cabrera was part of it, and my name was kind of known to people for that, and so you don't want that to go away, and you don't want that impression, but I think you know when you know, and it's just really a feeling, man. If you feel like there's an inspiration in something else, and I think one feeds the other, kind of like DJing feeds production. I think my business side kind of refreshes me a bit, and allows me to get back to the biz and then back to DJing. And so, there's a lot of days in the week and there's a lot of hours in the day, so take advantage of them, especially when we're doing art. So
yes, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Lee, this has been a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and just who you are as an artist. How can people connect with you and your music online?
Yeah, my email is steven@faderpro.com. And you can Google me.
You can Google him. Instagram.
Steven Lee Cabrera on Instagram. Yeah, Spotify, of course.
Awesome. Well,
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being on Redefining Music, and let's get ready to party.
Amen.